Is it a bad idea for villains to be evil? This is another one of those strange topics where um, I'm hearing more and more that you can't really have villains be truly evil. That if you make them, nasty bad, it's like you're condoning their behavior. I find this very backwards thinking, but let's get into it. Hey, everybody, this is Perch. This is one of those kind of Twilight Zone moments for me where I overthink it. I've done videos about how other people overthink things, but then I overthink this because I want to find logic in what somebody's saying. And so I turn this one over and over until the statement gets so weird in my own head that I don't even know what to do with it anymore. And that's, again, a frequent comment. I went back and looked at some of the notes I wrote for myself and some of the photos I took at some conventions recently. So it opened up the well of kind of thoughts and ideas and things to talk about from people. But um, the comment that I get is, because I would say, hey, to creator, why don't you, do why are people reluctant to have villains be really villainous? It's almost like we've got to either make them super cutesy or super dumb, or has a tragic kind of story that explains all their villainous actions and maybe makes some shades of gray into who they are. Like, why are we doing that to villains? Why can't villains just be super threatening and evil and sinister and terrible? And I've gotten the response more than once that it says, well, you can't really do a story with a truly evil villain because then it's like you're condoning that villain's behavior. And I've had trouble wrapping my head around that because the villain is the villain. I think if the writer is writing a villain to be villainous, doing villainous things and being mean and bad, it's clear that the writer intends that person to be the villain, the bad guy, the person that is in the wrong. I mean, it'd be one story of like the person, this writer's writing the Red Skull, and he's doing his kind of crazy fascist racist stuff, trying to kill off the country, and then like mid story arc, the writer reveals that the Red Skull's got a point because those long lines at Starbucks are get kind of annoying, and if there were fewer people, those lines would be shorter. I mean, then that would be a bad idea. But generally speaking, that's not what goes on, right? I mean, villains are villain. When Red Skull is spraying red mist over parts of the country and it's killing people, he's bad, just flat out bad. There's not a part to that arc where we get to learn about his motivations and realize maybe we should see his side. I don't know. I think part of the disease comes from this thinking that in order to write an effective villain, you have to be able to look through their eyes and see their side. No, you don't. Not really. I mean, when Stephen King wrote Pennywise a Clown, he was not. I mean, maybe, but I don't think he was dressing up like a clown and chasing kids around with scary knife hands. I don't think that was going on. I don't think at any point Stephen King sat there and said, this villain, the Pennywise a clown, he's got a point. He's doing it the wrong way, but maybe there's an element of no, he's just a villain. And I think that if you look at comics, particularly modern comics, there's this real kind of diminished writing of villains because they have to be kind of matched up with. It's just strange. It's just very strange to me, and I think that it's hurt comics a lot because I think one of the ways that you see heroes really succeed in memorable ways is when they overcome villains, when they actually can achieve and beat them and defeat evil. That's one of the kind of core parts of hero books. It's a way different story if your comic is kind of an indie comic of a struggling artist who wants to be a musician, but they're getting in their own way through self-doubt, and they have a rival that is always stealing, maybe steals songs from them, and then plays them themselves and kind of stabs the person in the back and everything else. But then we come to learn that the guy who's doing the stealing is just insecure because they don't have any natural talent of their own, and it's really just jealousy. And sorry. Anyway, I'm kind of nod off there in the middle of that story. Funny thing is, though, I feel like I've read that story a bunch, and I feel like I'm going to have that story put in front of me again, many, many times. I get that feeling. Anyway, uh, I think it's you could just have villains be villains. And so I find that I've always tried. I normally I try, like you've heard other videos. I try and understand where people are coming from, and this is one where I never have been able to really understand where people are coming from. Why are people saying that they need to, why are they saying you can't write villains? But if you look at modern comics from the big two, you will see that certainly at Marvel, less so at DC, although there's a little bit of that at DC, but definitely at Marvel, there is a massive deprioritization of villains. Like, look at like War of the Realms. You had Malekith, and he had a bunch of trolls and things running around, just kind of doing stuff. But it was like the Occupy movement. It was like Occupy Asgard. Is kind of what you had there. I mean, Malekith was evil, but it's like evil in a convoluted, like he's just kind of a crazy warmonger kind of way. But I don't know. Maybe he's doing it for the good of the Dark Elves. Like, have people thought about justice for Malekith? I don't know. Or then we get into kind of the Starbrand saga, and the villains there are Brood, sort of, but maybe not. They're just trying to populate the race, man. I don't know what's going on, and then you have, like, the other part of the Avengers, where you got the Squadron Supreme, but they're being manipulated by Phil Coulson, who was brought back by the devil, and he's probably just doing that because he made a bargain to come back to life after Deadpool. I mean, okay. I mean, is it even like the Hunted storyline where Craven and his son? I mean, I'm not saying that all villains should be one dimensional, not at all. But I am saying that it should be okay for people to let villains be villains. It's okay if Doctor Doom is egotistical and vain and wants to conquer. It's okay if the Red Skull is a Nazi. I mean, people go on and on about Nazis. I mean, but you've got an actual Nazi there. Like, I mean, the Red Skull worked for the Nazis. It is a Nazi, and it feels like the last time he was really evil was during Reminder's run, and now it feels like they just kind of don't really go. It's that cutesy kind of incompetent thing, and I think it's okay to write a super smart, super terrible villain who does really awful things that heroes must band together and try and figure out. I think that's a good move, and they should, nothing wrong with that. I don't know. I feel like I'm explaining this very badly, but I know part of it is because I still don't get what in the hell. I don't get this whole premise that villains can't be mean, because that would make them bad. I just don't really get it. So maybe you can understand. Do you think is there something dangerous about writing a villain in a comic? Is there something that if you write the villain too good, it means you're a villain? Is that, do you understand this? Do you have any ideas for me? Please leave a comment below. Help explain this to me so I can get this dumb thing out of my head and move on and have a happier life. That's what I would like. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications. Follow me on Twitter or Facebook at Comic Perch. Most importantly, thanks for listening.